Hey, everybody. For you guys who are not familiar with who this person is, Rebecca Roth, 9/11 researcher and writer of two books, one called The Methodical Illusion and one called The Methodical Deception. Now, I had a chance to be on a radio show with her out of Europe, and we have remained friends on Twitter here. And this is the whole reasoning for me making this presentation is about a conversation that we had. Although I cannot vet this information, I am going to use clues to share with you. And I don't want this to be a fear-mongering thing or nothing like that. I just want everybody to keep their eyes open in certain areas, especially with the Pope coming, right? This whole Pope visit and some very interesting things that have led up to this visit that are suspicious. Anyway, they're suspicious and could lead to something. But again, this has nothing to do with fear-mongering whatsoever. So Rebecca Roth got a hold of me back on Thursday and said that she wanted some help getting word out to the masses. And I had asked her what the information was, and we talked it over here, and you'll see here. Asking me if I had heard about 5 or 6 major U.S. cities possibly being attacked. And so I got in contact with her, and we had an hour and 19-minute conversation, and we agreed that I would conduct an interview with her so that we could get the information out and maybe make some connections with some other things that we're seeing in this interview. Well, time is short, and she has other interviews going on, so I thought I would kind of jump the gun and show you some of these interesting details or interesting things that I think that I should point out that we should have our eye on, just in case. So regarding those false flag attacks, she came out with a video on her own channel about manufactured terrorism. We know who was behind 9/11. Would they do it again? Is 9/23 an indicator that something is going to happen? Remember, before 9/11 happened, we went back to look at all of the signs that were being presented to us in cartoons, in movies, that 9/11 was going to happen. Did we know exactly what year that was going to happen? Of course not. Do we know when the 9/23 is going to happen? Well, if all of these indicators that I'm about ready to show you have any kind of legitimacy to it, then it's something that we should keep our eye on. And that's why I'm going to be presenting this to you. Again, this is not fear-mongering. This is just in case. And if I happen to be right about any of this, I'm hoping that military personnel will actually get to see this in case something happens. And when they're given the orders to go against the American public for any reason, they will think twice about doing it because it will be their own government that is behind this. So let us proceed at some of the clues that I've seen. Okay. With just like the hoaxed events that we've been seeing thrown at us, there always seems to be an agenda behind it, right? Would you guys all agree that there's something behind those that they're trying to push on the American public, right? Well, something to take note of here is about this Pope's visit, and it will produce the largest security operation in U.S. history, right? Okay, so this is just one story. And I'm sure there's probably more that I could use here, but if you look at who's directly involved with the security detail of the Pope's visit, we have the Homeland Security, but the U.S. Secret Service is in charge of coordinating the massive intergovernmental operation and counterterrorism operations, crowd management, crisis response, right? And air vehicle traffic control. Very interesting. Yeah, we saw a lot of that air traffic control, right? What did we see about the air response or some of the FAA things that we posted here recently about how they were going to be jamming commercial airline TCAS and other stuff like that? Is the timing crazy? Could be. But let's take a look at something about what they were pounding at us about the U.S. Secret Service. And why would the U.S. Secret Service be taking the lead role in the protection of the Pope, right? Well, what have they been telling us about the Secret Service and been pounding at us, right? How inept they are, over and over. Let's take a look at that. When we take a look at this ABC News article of the 11 worst White House security breaches of all time, let's take a look at just some of the stuff that's been happening. This was posted September, but let's take a look at, there's even been a couple after that. So let's take a look at some of the interesting ones, and you'll see that it's quite possible that these events took place for a reason. To put in the American public's mind about how inept the Secret Service is. But why would they be doing it? Could there be an attack on the Pope that's going to happen, and it will be the ineptitude of the Secret Service that will be blamed? Let's take a look at some of these instances. Starting November 2009, Tariq and Michelle Salahi had somehow breached a White House dinner, little celebration or whatever. I can't remember. It was a state dinner. And who caught most of the flack behind this breach of the White House, if you want to call it? And that was the Secret Service, right? Well, coming just stories after that, you had instances where, a Jeep crashes and a guy runs onto the property and he wants to, what? He wanted to spray paint something about the "Don't Tread on Me," right? Right, here, hoping it would create diversion and allow him to paint a "Don't Tread on Me" sign on the exterior wall of the White House. Wow, look at the fake story out of Arizona and with Jared Miller, right? They allegedly went into the CiCi's Pizza and shot 2 cops, draped a "Don't Tread on Me" flag, goes over into Walmart, but they don't have any kind of images. What does Walmart have? Security cameras up the wazoo, but they didn't show you any images of Amanda and Jared Miller walking through the store and end up shooting each other with the video footage in the back of the store. So they want you to believe that this was a real event, and that's what they use to tell you that it was real. And it was all about the "Don't Tread on Me" flag, right? Do you see how these just little stories kind of mix and match with each other? They're trying to throw with multifacets. It's all multifaceted, the patriot movement of the United States. That's who they want to demonize with the "Don't Tread on Me." Then you have this demonizing of this incident right here. And of course, again, the Secret Service is going to look like they were inept at not being able to stop him in time or whatever the case, right? So also you have this. Intruder has a knife, claims to be Iraq vet. Well, so he makes it.
Fence jumper at the White House.
Geez.
How he made it so far, actually.
So fence jumper gets inside the White House, right? Well, think about this just for a second here. The Secret Service, the arrest on location is unacceptable. So Secret Service really, caught a lot of heat behind this, right? Does anybody know about the security protocols there at the White House? You know that there are snipers right on top of the White House that are on constant lookout just for events like this to happen. So if this guy was to be running on property, they would have most assuredly would have shot first and asked questions second, seeing some guy run across the field. But think about the conditions that would have had to have been ripe for this guy to run across the lawn here and make it into the White House, actually making the Secret Service look like they were complete and utter morons. But we don't know anything about this guy running across there. Was this all just like the Virginia shooting hoax? You got something caught on camera, and they're going to make the American public believe that that's exactly what took place. We don't know who this guy is. It could be, it could be a hired guy to run across the lawn and make the Secret Service look completely stupid. And is the Secret Service in on them making themselves look stupid? Could be. Don't know, right? So anyway, like I said, the Secret Service being up on top of their being snipers and them not focusing their attention on this guy running across the lawn, they would have had their eye on everything. That's their job. That's what they're supposed to do. You're really going to tell me that this guy made it across the grass into the White House, into the building? Right. Okay. So that's just been a couple instances that we've seen going on with fence jumpers, getting across the lawn, almost making it to the building. And you have this incident right here where he hits into the barrier, right? Okay, so now that you can see that they've been pushing, just like you see the the hoaxes going on, they push it at the public, right? School shootings, schools being evacuated. So they're pushing all of these stories. Is there an agenda behind it? Well, most assuredly there is. So it leads me to believe that there is an agenda behind making the Secret Service look absolutely inept. That's what it tells me, right? So, moving on from there. So talking about the conditions that are ripe, right? We're talked about the White House lawn runner and making it to the White House and having no Secret Service actually noticing that the guy running across the lawn at first, right? Very interesting. So what about the Pope becoming Pope? Were the conditions ripe for all that? How about, you have Pope Benedict, who usually that is a position for life. And all of a sudden he decides to retire, right? And Pope Bergoglio, Pope Francis, he becomes the new pope. And something that he stated back last year, Huffington Post reports that Pope Francis says he may only have a few years left to live and will consider retirement. What is that all about? What is this all of a sudden just becoming a whole retirement process here? Benedict retires. Now he's talking about I may only have a few years left to live. Right. So here's my thing, everybody, folks. All right. Interesting. Sandy Hook, New Jersey. Emergency Field Hospital set up in New Jersey for UN General Assembly. Wow. Someone mentioned something where I was reading about this that, and my wife brought it up too, is that with this Sandy Hook story coming up right here, it's actually going to push all of the Sandy Hook related hoax stories all the way down to the bottom of the list, and all of Sandy Hook is going to be, this stuff right here is going to be appearing at the top, right? But it also made me think about something else, and about Pope Francis being put into the position that he is, where Pope Benedict retires, Pope Francis comes in. Does he come in a few years ahead of time because all of this whole thing right here was going to be planned out way in advance? And what do I mean by that? Sandy Hook, we noticed that all of these houses were empty. You have people like Robbie Parker and other families move in from other locations, spend a year or two in Sandy Hook working, seems to be like their residence there. All of a sudden, a shooting goes down. After the shooting's over, the families move away, right? Well, what if this whole thing is ripe for the exact same scenario with Pope Francis? He becomes Pope after Pope Benedict retires, comes over here, a big, huge attack on the United States in 5 or 6 different locations. It is claimed that there is an attack on Pope Francis in that location as well. They claim he's dead. They claim he is been killed in part of this attack. And I'm not, this is not fear mongering. I'm just telling you, giving you a scenario of possibilities here, folks. Just possibilities. All right. And what are the clues that have led me up to some of the interesting things that this is a possibility? Well, think about all of the exercises that we saw over the past few months, how chemical attack, and they were using these type of field hospitals like this, right? And they were scrubbing them and, oh God, oh my God, I'm hurt. I'm, blah, blah, blah. And you saw some of those going on in Hawaii. You saw some dirty bomb exercises out of California, Indiana, Michigan, I do believe. We saw some exercises going on in Flint, Michigan. You saw all kinds of military exercises out of Florida where there were some weird white vans picking up people. And all of these military exercises are going to be leading up to something, right? To something. With the Hurricane Katrina incident that happened, it was created a situation that was ripe for the National Guard and police departments to go into residents and force them to hand over their guns. I have stated repeatedly that it is going to take a huge mass attack on the United States to even get the military to consider coming and following orders to take weapons from whatever citizens remain after an attack like that, right? Is that what this is all about? Is there going to be a huge false flag attack on the United States using chemical, dirty bomb instances? Do you remember how Obama came out with his little clue? The thing that he worries about is a nuclear attack on Manhattan. Got a TV show comes out called Rewind. What is it about? A nuclear attack specifically on Manhattan. Now, I'm not saying that these are that this is all, hey, this is exactly what it is, and I'm using clues from TV shows to make my case. I'm not. All I could tell you is that pre-9/11, we had all kinds of clues that were right there in our faces, and we didn't even know it because we didn't know that that's what they were doing to us. And it only became apparent after the fact. Well, if we look at all of the clues right now that are being thrown in our face for September 23rd, if we look at all of how the hoaxed events have been pushing some kind of agenda, some kind of propaganda, been throwing it in our face, we can look at those same clues with the ineptitude of the Secret Service. We can look at all kinds of indicators. Look at the show Jericho, right? What were they trying to tell us? There was going to be attacks in San Diego, Jericho, Denver, Phoenix, Houston, Dallas, Atlanta. This is the map that they were showing from the show Jericho, right? Seattle. San Francisco was one of those locations, right? Okay, San Diego was one of those locations, right? San Diego just did some kind of weird power grid shutdown that didn't make any sense, and it just happened. Was there any reason behind this power grid shutdown just a few days before the Pope shows up? I don't know. I don't know. And I'm not saying that's even related, but it's something to keep your eye on, that maybe they wanted to shut down the power in a certain area for a certain reason, and we just don't even know it yet. But it's something to keep your eye on, right? San Francisco, let's take a look at that. We had the Germanwings plane go down, and they were showing us all of this information about the co-pilot or whatever the pilot guy was. His name was Andreas or whatever, and they were saying it was Andreas's fault. You know, it was kind of trippy, right? And they were showing pictures of him sitting there by the Golden Gate Bridge. Were they trying to throw these little clues at us about San Francisco? Is something going to go down in San Francisco, right? Golden Gate Bridge went through these renovations, and one of them had to do with this clock and about how they didn't have any hands on it, right? They wanted you to see it without any hands on it whatsoever. And then you had the story about the American flag being dipped in white paint, and they were trying to tell you something with that bridge story, right? And you think that there was nothing behind that? I think that these are all clues that something's coming. What exactly? All I'm trying to do is piece together all the clues for you and what to keep your eye on. That's all I can do. All right? Again, I am not trying to fear monger whatsoever. So the Golden Gate Bridge, without a doubt, a timeless icon, all of a sudden they're going through this renovation. And the clock, this is a big, huge clock right here. And hey, I'm not saying that they did, but is it possible that some kind of device could have been planted inside the clock and the Golden Gate Bridge could be attacked? Could it be one of the attack locations? Could be. Could very well be. Some of the other interesting things that are going on with all of a sudden on the 16th, multiple nuclear plants are reporting some kind of electrical problem all on the same day, just like Walmart, right? All Walmart, April 16th, we're shutting down for plumbing problems. All of them reporting the exact same problem. Well, according to them, those problems were ongoing, but they all shut down on the same day. You didn't know that you were going to shut them down at all, and perishable goods you order just the day before, and you stock up your shelves with perishable goods, and what? That next day you go and mark down everything 50% off because you just decided a day after you restocked to shut it down for plumbing to fix plumbing issues? You guys really believe that? Do you guys really believe that all of the exercises that led up to Jade Helm, all of the military training of paratroopers over at Fort Bragg, right? British paratroopers, the Army troopers, all doing their little exercises at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. You had military personnel doing exercises where they were taking over airports over in Texas. You had Operation Raider Focus, 4,000 military troops sending a convoy of over a period of days of military Stryker equipment down to Pinyon Canyon. We saw images of all of those, right? Did we ever see any images? Did anybody ever capture any images of them returning after the exercise was over? Is the exercise actually over? Is that indeed what it was all about, right? I don't know. But all I do know is that we had saw unprecedented exercises going on. We saw, helicopters exercising in different cities of Minneapolis, Chicago, Miami. And I'm not saying that this is indeed the case here. Let me just show you the map of Jericho here. Minneapolis is on their map. Is it related to possibly showing us clues with the military helicopter exercises that they were doing in the city, and the police departments were participating with them, right? Chicago, we saw that. Miami, we saw it. Los Angeles, we saw it, right? Phoenix, Arizona, we saw it. Houston, Texas, we saw military exercises with helicopters in the city doing that. How about Philadelphia and Boston, Massachusetts? Yes, indeed. We saw it. So are all of these clues, were they trying to tell us all this stuff through different types of TV shows? That there is going to be a mass attack in different kinds of cities in the United States. And it's all going to be centered around the Pope's visit. They could say that the Pope has been killed. He's been whisked away. He's been brought in just to participate in a big, huge plot to take down what? The United States? What? To come in and take away guns? I think it's a lot more than that. This could lead up to a big, huge conflict of religions. Is that what it is? I don't know. That's up for you guys to decide whether all of this information I'm sharing with you has any kind of merit. So anyway, I just want to state to the military out there, if you see an attack go down, if you see it, if you see any of these locations listed in these attacks, be very wary of any of the orders that you're given. Be very wary of those. Are they going to try to blame it off the sovereign movement, militia, patriots? Is that what it's going to be about? Because they're going to say that the Pope is here to try to push a big, huge refugee push into the United States, and patriots and a militia are all against it. Is that what it's all going to be about? Is that what it's going to be? Could be. I just don't know. But all of the clues right here, to me, indicate that they are using... Well, why Sandy Hook? Why Sandy Hook, New Jersey for this right here? Is that a clue in itself where they're actually locating this emergency field hospital? Is it? Could be. I just don't know. But take a look at this video if you can think of anything more that I may have left out, because, of course, all the information I'm sharing here is not comprehensive. It's not exhaustive. Excuse me. I'm not... there may be some points of all this that I am forgetting. If you can think of anything else that may add to what I'm sharing here, please share away. Please let me know so other people can see it and be also alert to something that I may have missed. All right? Thanks, everybody. Hey, you know what? Before I forget, my wife just brought up an interesting point about the clock bomb kid. Do you remember? And the father was holding up some clock, and it was allegedly about some bomb hoax or some kind of bomb that he had created or something like that. Huh?
He made it in school. It was a clock.
Yeah, he made it in school, and it was about a clock, right? And just think about what I was telling you about the Golden Gate Bridge and about the clock being taken down. Remember? No hands, all that other weird stuff. Was that some kind of clue? Is that how they were just kind of seeing if anybody would notice the connection there? I don't know. Possible. I don't have a clue. But I know that they really threw that clock story at us. And if you really look at the father of the alleged bomb-making kid, and you see all of his background about the 9/11 connection with him and the Twin Tower transportation, there's some information going on around there. Is that indeed true? I haven't looked at it further. I just saw it today. And my wife piecing that together about the bomb kid and the clock and the clock at the Golden Gate Bridge, there could be a connection. I just don't know. So, again, I want to thank everybody and appreciate you listening.